away that you can't hear me anymore, let me know. Yep. Is it working? Is it working? It's working. Yay! Come on, there are plenty of seats. Invite your friends. Come on. And I want to give a shout out to those at my home base in Mechanicsburg who are listening probably from home. Hello? Yes. Thank you for tuning in to the Edith Show. All right. Is it 2:15? Time to start? It is. It's 2:15. All right. So, hello. I'm Edith. I don't know. I'm moving in and out of where that's at. Okay, that's me. I started with the DoD in 2004, working for the Army. I worked as a contractor first, then as a civilian, doing procurement, weapons procurement for PM Close Combat Systems, and I worked on a bunch of programs there. Then I moved over to Defense Contract Management Agency and was working on an Air Force program, and now I'm with the Navy since 2019 doing data governance. So lots of different experience, procurement, research, mostly program management. So if you were in the earlier session where I questioned how they're messaging data governance as an IT-focused thing, I disagree with that. It is a program management effort. It's collaborative. It is everybody's thing. Everybody needs to know how data is managed, how they're storing data, how to get access to data when they need it. Next slide. So, just, kind of a level set. Everybody, I think, who has seen the data strategy has seen this slide. And what the DoD and Don Vision are. We're, of course, at the bottom of that, which in Ms. Rathbun's session yesterday, it's not sexy. It's like the plumbing in your house. You need it. You want to wash dishes. You need your plumbing. But it's not sexy. But it does facilitate all those things above it. AI, all those shiny, happy things that people want. So not everything foundational is sexy, but it is foundational. To build a good structure, you need good data quality, you need data governance, you need those things. So next slide. This is also in the data strategy. The thing I like most about this slide is that phrase where it says, right near the bottom somewhere, risks will be managed not by flawless forecasting. So that gives us the ability to be flexible, to be creative, to try an MVP, a minimally viable product. Let's try this thing. If it's great, we're going to go with that. Because risk is inherent in what we do as program managers, how we mitigate those risks, how we challenge ourselves to overcome those risks is fundamental to how we create our programs. So data governance should be no different. There are risks involved. There are different products. There's a myriad products that just do data cataloging. Besides Jupyter, we have, there's a bunch of different products out there. And now I'm here and now I'm not. There I am. So that flawless forecasting is really not where we want to be. We want to be able to be creative and be mindful of the mission while doing the best for the Navy and the sailors and civilians that we all work together. So, and the idea that it's iterative. The whole thing is iterative. You have speed and agility, and you keep iterating in that agile fashion. So all of this is stuff that most of you have probably already seen. in the DoD data strategy. And one thing too, if you guys have comments, questions, whatever, as I'm going, feel free to raise your hand, because if we go backwards afterwards, one never knows. But not that I won't be able to answer your questions. I know it's funny, but if I'm in the zone and you ask me a question, that's where my brain's at, so it's better that way. But, you know, I will take questions after. But this is all, you know, realistically from NAVSUP's perspective. So ESH2, as opposed to ESH1, which is a lot of what you're hearing about in some of these larger meetings, is the ESH1 perspective, CDAO office. I'm looking at it from the ESH2 perspective. So this next slide is kind of, it's an older slide, but this is ESH1 looking at things. You know, they have the data governance board that's being revamped. Like I said, this is a bit of an older slide. But those DON information domains, they might not work for us because we're supply, so we don't really do much in aerospace. We don't do much in, you know, the geospatial. We don't do much in some of those other areas. We're mostly focused on logistics. Obviously, we have some acquisition, we have some legal things, but for the most part, we're doing logistics. So yeah, we want to align with this, but we want to align in a way that best serves our ESH2 posture. So the center part, we want to focus on that outcome. So measure, acquire, what is the actual outcome? So, you know, we're going along saying, hey, we need a data catalog. And a lot of people are going, why? What do you need a data catalog? Well, okay, let's focus on the outcome. The outcome is better data discovery, better self-service data discovery. How can we enable people who are data scientists, data analysts, or everyday people to find the answers to the data questions they have, or the information questions they have? Like, where do I find X? Who is the data steward? Who allows access to this thing of data? That's not necessarily a data scientist asking that question. So in order to have that self-service discovery, we need some kind of data catalog. That's the solution that we're looking at. But the outcome, that's what we want to tell the admirals and the, you know, vices and things of the world. That's the outcome we want. The vehicle to get there is important, but the outcome is what we want to focus on, that message. And you're going to hear that from me, you know, several times, is how are you crafting your message? Because I know my vice, if I say data governance, he goes, I don't know what that is. So, you know, you have to craft, this is what I want. I want better self-service data discovery, and that's the message. And that he understands just fine. And somebody recently told me, when you're talking to someone at a higher level, they're not just, your program is just a small part of everything that they're looking at. So their advice, and I've taken it to heart, and it's actually worked for me very well. Duckies and chickies and primary colors. Keep it simple as you can, because your program, you know everything about your program. You can talk about your program for hours. They don't want to hear it for hours. They want to hear it for 10 minutes, and they want to know what you're doing, how you're spending your money, and what the outcome is. What are you going to get from your whatever it is that you're doing? So, let me just check real quick. Okay, so the CDAO office came to visit NAVSUP fairly recently, and, oh, did I skip a slide? Where'd it go? Okay, I'm missing a slide. I don't know. It's not there. I can read. Basically, what we told the CDAO, and I was glad to hear Dr., I forget her name. Yeah, say that there was going to be a repository for all the things, the policies, the stuff, all that stuff. Because right now, I'm learning there are things that have come out. I didn't know about them. And I've been actively looking for things, policies, regulations. I'm probably 3 or 4 months behind on a lot of those things because even though I'm actively looking for them, unless they're posted somewhere that I know to look for them, I may not find them. But I find out about them in things like this, in forums like these. So I was happy to hear about that. That was one of the things that we had asked for. And I know there used to be Lyft, there used to be a bunch of different places where they had those things, and they're not there anymore. So the other thing is, and we want guide rails. We don't want guardrails. We don't want limits. We don't want them telling us, you have to do it this way. But we want to understand what the mission is. Where do we want to be? What's the goal? And then we will get there with you. We will work with you to get to where we need to be, to understand. Obviously we know what the mission is overall, but what are the incremental milestones that you want us to hit? And we will get there. So give us some guide rails, not guardrails. So that way we can follow along in the way that best fits our mission as well as the overall mission. So the other thing was, in the light of the flawless forecasting, give us those opportunities for learning. Give us those opportunities to do that iterative process. Help us. Like I was talking to PEO Digital earlier. You guys have some expertise that we want to feed into. Help us get here. Here's our requirement. You guys have expertise in these things. Help us out. Let's work together. And we have participated since the beginning in the Cross-Syscom CDAO meetings that happen a couple times a month. The CDOs from NavSup, NavAir, NavC, we get together, we talk about stuff. I'm not the CDO, I'm his deputy, so to speak. So I sit in on those meetings when he's not available. But, we talk about what things are we coming up against? What are we doing? How are we getting there? And we share how we're getting these things accomplished. So all that collaboration, very, very important. And just recognizing that the needs of ESH2 are not the same needs as ESH1. They're in line, they're not the same. So what now? And we handled the beginnings of our data governance journey from a business perspective. What are your processes? What is your critical data that you need to perform that process? And getting a handle on those things. Not, hey, I have a table and here's the data that's in it. It's, what's the process? Because there's petabytes of data. It's everywhere. But we don't need to catalog all of it right away. We want to understand, catalog, and get a handle on the critical data element to get the stuff from the contractor into the warehouse, from the warehouse to the ship, and do all of those logistics things that we need to do to keep the sailors in food and moving people around with movement of household goods. All those processes that happen, sometimes you don't think about, hey, I've got to get, the whatever ship always has this famous thing on the menu. You got to make sure they have the stuff to do it. And some ships are famous for those things. So we want to make sure that when we talk about, I call it husbandry, but it's not really, it's not really husbandry. All of those things that maintain, quality of life kinds of things. We want to make sure that we get those things done. And in order to do that, the business perspective was the best perspective for us, to find out what those processes are, catalog those processes, and discuss it with the people who are actually, and we kind of talk about it a little differently. Our data stewards are the people who grant access, understand what the data quality rules are, that kind of thing. And then we have data custodians that are the ones down in the data actually understanding. They're the ones who are going to identify, hey, we've got a data quality issue. So that's kind of how we did it. And we consider the data owner to be the Secretary of the Navy. So he owns the data, we steward the data, and then the data custodians are actually in the data knowing all the things about the data. So that's a little bit of a different structure than some of the people we're talking about. But right now we don't have an actual viable data catalog. We have Excel spreadsheets, but we have documented everything. We have data domain management plans so that, and you'll see in a few minutes, that we do have domains for our data based on the business processes. So document, 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 share. I mean, we have teams and we share everything. Everything is visible to anybody who wants it. And, what's the feedback? Tell us, what else do you need to know? What else do you need from me? So that goes around. Excuse me. So what did we find as we did this? So we did find one data set, so to speak, one business process that two people were saying, it's mine, 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 mine. And after a discussion, it was decided that, in this case, it was hazmat data, that would belong under master data. So master data, they took that as foundational. So we found that. We found cases where this table has a definition for a data element, and then it's also in this table over here, they talk to each other, but it's defined differently. And that's an ongoing process as we gather more and more of the data through the processes as we explore them. And some of that is easy. It's like, oh, well, that makes more sense. Or there's already a definition at a higher level, at a DON or a DoD level of that particular kind of element, and we do look at that. And then, or it's, all right, we don't want you to fight about it. It's not a win, I win because I have a better definition. That's not where we're at. We want to make sure that the definition actually defines what the data is, how it fits in the process, and who owns it, who stewards the data, and the people actually in the data get together and talk about it and come up with a good definition. It's not about who wins. And, you get these big, like some of the things that are saved out there, huge data searches. I'm looking for this, I'm going to do star dot star. Oh, please don't. Please don't. You make my heart hurt. How can we get data sets that are reusable? And that's something that we're working on right now. We have a group curating data sets. We have a place to store those data sets. They will be cataloged when we have our catalog up. I mean, there is visibility to them in certain groups right now. So, and that is something that we are promoting. There's a policy that's almost ready for signature. I was hoping it would be done by now, but it's almost ready for signature on how to curate a data set. Here's what you need to be able to create a curated data set. Here are the people who need to approve that curated data set, and here's how that curated data set is going to be managed and made visible to others so that it can be reused. So, and also a process like, Dan has a great data set, and Carrie wants that exact same data set, but one column more. Okay, well, do we create a new data set, or do we augment the data set that's already there? So all of that is part of this policy that we're doing for NAVSUP. So that way, as we're building, as we're trying to get a data catalog for ourselves in order to have the outcome of self-service data discovery, we're trying to get some of these other things together. So again, document, document, document. How are we going to do these things? Share it out to everybody, get the feedback, and that document has actually gone around multiple times, and every time we make it a little better. So I think once it's signed off, it's going to be a really good, really valuable thing for us. So here are our domains. These domains, except for the one on the end, for the most part, map up to the DON information domain of logistics. So it all supports that logistics domain. The one on the end has a lot of, that's where we have legal, that's where we have the, in Brit speak, it's odds and sods. So all those things that don't necessarily fit into logistics, nice and cleanly. But this was built on an existing structure that NavSup already had. They had these things, and they are business focused, and they had this structure because of money. So they were all put together because that's how the money went. So we were like, makes sense to me. So the subdomains were created for the processes. So in, say, logistics, ammunition, it's a thing, gotta have it. You send a soldier, well, going from the Army perspective, you send a soldier to the field, he's gotta have bullets. You gotta make sure he gets them. So there has been some movement around as we go through the processes. Some of the things were broken into two different things, this is a living structure. This is not set in stone. We, right now, everybody seems happy with it. Next year, they may go, well, this doesn't really fit that well. But we do have a mechanism to update this. There's a data leadership council that has been created that has members from, I don't know if any of you are familiar with NavSup, but we have an HQ, and we have Business Center, which does most of the IT stuff. But in order to make sure that we were all together, we have this Data Leadership Council that helps us manage across the organization what the efforts are. And this is part of that, what they're looking at. Do the business things that we're doing fit into here? Are there data stewards already looking at this data? If not, if we're creating something new, maybe we need to add to this. So it's, nothing that I try to create is set in stone, that my team creates is set in stone. It's fluid and moves with the necessities of NavSup's mission. Did I miss anything, Carrie? No? Carrie's the best. So the next thing that I want to talk about, so while we're working on doing our data catalog, getting our focus together, spreading the word about how wonderful data governance is as a program management solution, we also did our own data maturity assessment. So this is based on the same structure that the DON used. In discussions with Stephanie and her team, we are right in that same sweet spot that the DON is in, right in the middle there, 2.7, I think it is. Yeah, 2.7. So not at the basis, the base, but okay, we're doing okay. We need more collaboration. We need to look at all of these. And if you can see, the outer lines, the lighter gray line, we're not expecting in the next 2 years to get to 5 all around. We want to keep it real. What can we do? What's possible? And where do we need to focus those efforts? So basically, this is very dumbed down because they wouldn't let me tell you everything. But these items, each of these actions, these 5 higher level actions, have their own champion. So there's a person who is overseeing the tasks that we put together, and they're assigning people on their team or collaborating with other groups to forward these things. And some of the first stuff is, hey, review. Let's see where we're really at. Was that data maturity assessment correct? I mean, yeah, we answered the questions, but were we really there? So review, identify technology gaps, look at how we're training the workforce, and that's come up in some of the other things. You know, are we giving our civilians and sailors the tools they really need to get to the mission? So all of those things, like I said, each of those has a champion, and that champion is helping my team create a schedule, so to speak, of how are we going to get there in 2 years? What are the tasks that we need to capture in order to get there? And for accountability purposes, there's always that. You know, I say I want to be here in 2 years, and you know, you're the champion. Give me the task, give me a timeline, and give us feedback. Oh, well, we're really not going to make that. Why not? What do you need? Do you need another body? Do you need more information? What do you need? So again, collaborative. Let's move us forward so that we are building NAVSUPs. Knowledge, presence, efficiency, data management, all of those things. And some of this will feed into Cattle Drive. As we look at our systems, as we look at how our processes work, and not just this data maturity part, but the whole, as we're looking things from a business perspective, do we have, obviously there's going to be some redundancy. That's inherent in things that are, you know, you built this and you built that and you built the other thing. There's going to be some redundancy. But how much of that is recoverable from a Cattle Drive perspective? So that's another aspect of this that we are cognizant of, because some of our logistics things are quite old. So what's new? What's in the pipeline? What can we sunset and incorporate into something else perhaps? So that's another thing. So pacing the threat. I was told that was the theme for this thing. So, you know, how are we pacing the threat? How are we putting ourselves out and helping NAVSUP move forward? And the whole idea is foundationally. We want to really build that firm foundation. Get the data right. Get after duplicate data. Get after duplicate processes. Get after people doing huge searches and slowing down the system. Let's get those gold data sets out there for reusability. Collaborate. Talk to everyone. I don't want anyone, I mean, obviously you're going to have people who love to sit at their desk like a mushroom. Engage those people. How you doing? They're not going to like it. Do it anyway. How you doing? Just, you know, 2 minutes a week. It's probably more than they can handle. It's fine. They'll get over it. They'll get used to you being there. They'll look forward to it after a while because you're familiar. Hey, how you doing? How's that project going? Anything I can help you with? Craft your message. I'm not here to bug you. I just want to understand what you do and how I can help. I just want you to understand that one of my mission focuses right now is self-service data discovery. Is that going to help you in your analytics? Possibly. So how can I make that better for you? Here are my requirements. Does that look like complete requirements to you? So if I fill all these requirements, that's going to help you, because every time you do requirements, please don't do them in a bubble. Put them out there. Have everybody look at them. Is this what we really need? Because I know what I would like to have. That doesn't mean that's the best thing. I'm looking at it from my perspective. Is that what everybody needs? And, you know, I mean, it was on one of the other slides, I think, and I didn't mention it then, but, you know, we went out and we were asking people, do you have a data dictionary? Do you have a data catalog for your system? Does it already exist? Because recreating the wheel is not where anyone wants to be, ever. So we got handed a 300-page PDF from 2012. Here's our data catalog. No, it's not. No, it's not. Thanks. I'll take this under advisement. And you have frustrations like that, where people think they have what you need, but they have to understand data governance, data cataloging, and they were talking about stale data before. It's dynamic. It is dynamic. You have to keep looking at it. So, and crafting your message to leadership is a big part of this. You have to make sure that they understand how what you say is helping the whole SysCom or the Navy as a whole. So I'm going to go kind of more quickly through these slides. So branching out, we've already talked about it. People saying, it's mine. It's my data set. I created this process for me. Okay, that's really not a thing. The data doesn't belong to you. It belongs to NAVSUP or it belongs to the Navy. So yes, you're manipulating it in a special way. I want to know what that is, because some other people might want to do that too. Let's talk about it. And, you know, silos. Everybody hates silos, but they're a thing. Yes, we're overcoming them, little by little. Things like our Data Leadership Council, we're helping that. And again, packaging the message. But, you know, you come up with mine, it's mine. So, mitigation. I call it mitigation because you're not going to solve the problem right away. But how can you overcome it in the short term? How can you meet these, you know, individuals who think that they own the data? How do you meet them where they are and say, okay, it's really not your data. You're going to understand, okay, help me understand how this is part of your business process. How does that fit into the overall business process? And how can we incorporate what you're doing into the larger picture, if we need to? Or does it already exist somewhere else, that someone else who's also doing similar things already created this and has shared it with everyone? But mine is better. Well, maybe so. Tell me about it. So there's that. Silos. I mean, the Data Leadership Council has gone you know, quite a ways to overcome some of that siloing between HQ and BSC. Just by being there, just by talking to each other, just by aligning those mission focus areas in NAVSUP, so that it's not, hey, BSC is doing this and HQ is doing something else. We're all marching together. So, and packaging the message, can't read my handwriting. Oh, data literacy. I wanted to spend a second on data literacy. We hear it all the time. I'm not illiterate. Okay, you're not illiterate. I understand that. But are you using the data in the best way that you can? Are you managing what you create in the best way to help NAVSUP? The data that's coming in that you use, are you reporting if there are data quality issues? Or are you just fixing it for yourself? So how is that data literacy moniker hurting us? Should it be something like data fluency? Should data be in there at all? Because it's everyday work. You're doing your work. Yes, you're handling data, but it's your work. It's your everyday thing. It's what you see every day. So there is some, and data governance as well, there is some movement towards changing those names to make them more palatable. I mean, people hear data governance, they're like, oh, it's IT. Like, no, it's not IT. It's not IT. Trust me, it's not IT. And I'll fight you for it. It's not IT. Data literacy. It's not about you going down into the code and being able to fix some Pascal program from 1986. That's not what it's about. So, how are we packaging that message? So I stole this slide from PEO Digital because I love it. Most pyramids, you want to go to the top. Like the first pyramid I showed, you want AI. You want all the fun, sparkly things. See, Randall's over there shaking his head. I already told him about the sparkly things. In this pyramid, you want to be on the bottom. You want to be at the foundation. You want to improve from the down to the bottom where it says stuff in little tiny letters. I monitor and manage progress against strategic objectives and quantitative trending analysis. Is anybody there? I'm not. I know I'm not. It's a goal. And it's probably not where someone can live all the time. You're going to live somewhere above that. Because you can't go, every single decision you make is based on this. But you should be mindful of it. Mindful of how what you're doing affects the whole. And this is on the PEO website, so PEO Digital website. I stole it off of there because I really like that picture. And I think it's interesting too because it is moving from top to bottom instead of the traditional pyramids that move from bottom to top. I think it's really interesting that you're up in the top where it's squirrely and you can fall off, and you're moving to the foundation. And in that first pyramid I showed, what's at the foundation? Data quality, data governance. How are we making those firm foundations to build the next set of good stuff that we want to do? So, I think this is my last slide. What does modernization mean to the Mav Sup? So, we're talking growth. We moved Navy Data Platform to the cloud. We are looking at things less organic, less, hey, let's build it ourselves, and working industry. They've built some wonderful things. Why are we going to spend all the time and money to build it ourselves, do all the testing, do all those things, when it already exists and can be supported, has whatever, if it has FedRAMP, if it needs FedRAMP, if it needs whatever it needs, a lot of that's already done. So why are we recreating the wheel? Let's use what we, and it's case by case. But one of PEO's, I don't know if it's a tenant or whatever, but let's not do the best of this, the best of this, the best of this, and make them work together. Let's buy something that's maybe not the best of this, but it's okay, this is the best and that's the best, because they already work together. And we're not creating something that's hard to support. Like, hey, you know how to support it, but you win the lottery and you're gone. Well, who's going to support it? Nobody. Because nobody knows it. Because nobody was there when it was created. The documentation, everybody loves documentation, don't they? Everybody keeps their documentation up to date. Don't they? No. So, what do you do then? But if you have bought something that's the best of what's available over all of the things that you need that best meets your mission, that best meets your requirements. You've got support from a vendor who created it for you, who created it for a lot of people. And they can help you, he wins the lottery, he's gone. Somebody else steps in and can help you keep moving forward. So, and shared things, when you're sharing a data set, you've got security on that data set. So your security, it's already there. If you've got people running all kinds of queries and all kinds of, aggregation, it keeps coming up. What's the security? How are you safeguarding that data? But if you've got a gold data set, or even some silver stuff that you can play with, security follows it. If you've already gone through all of that, your security follows it. So don't recreate the wheel. Help yourself. And from my perspective, and this is my opinion, whatever, we recreate the wheel too many times. So, my opinion. Back on track. But I guess, are there any questions? I talked a lot. I can talk forever, trust me. So, any questions? Come on. Oh, Dan.
I don't have a question.
Oh, is it on? Mic check.
Hello?
Yep, there you go.
Okay, I don't have a question personally, but I did want to read one just from chat.
Okay.
This was a few minutes ago. The question was, I think, with your different domain slide within logistics, or across NavSup, sorry. Question was, has Fleet Forces and Pack Fleet had discussions with NavSup on standardizing data domains, with the exception of the general admin domain, Navy-wide, that integrates NavSup, Fleet Forces, Pack Fleet data into these respective domains?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. Give her the mic, hun. I call everyone hun. I'm sorry. 9 years in retail, everyone is hun. It should be on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So to better iterate, what we have done is mapped all of our data that we have documented in the critical data elements to which DON domain it belongs in. So we have alignment with what DON domains all of our stuff belongs in. But because we have kind of a unique animal with logistics and sustainment, supply operates very differently. So we set up our stuff to meet the mission needs at NavSup, but we're very well aware of what the requirements of the DON are and how everything that we have fits into the DON domains and where it belongs in the DON. So when the DON's asking us for our information, we can easily and readily give it to them in the form that they're asking for because we know exactly where it belongs in that standard.
And, somebody wants to talk to us, hey, communicate. Talk to me. I'm all good with that.
We're happy to collaborate.
Absolutely. Call me. I'm at my desk all day, every day. Give me a call.
Actually, building off of that response and that question, I was going to ask, because you had initially said that it wasn't a straight or easy mapping to the DON information domains, which is kind of why you had to create these subdomains and other categories. Have you ever experienced a conflict where you may fall under logistics on one or acquisition another, depending on the application? And how do you resolve?
Contracts was an interesting animal because contracts is inherently acquisition. But what are we contracting for? We're contracting for logistics for the most part. So we kept it under logistics just because of the nature of our contracting. And in any of these, you could say that there is some cross-function. Food services. Well, it's acquisition because we're buying stuff, but we're supplying the ships. So nothing is, well, I don't want to say nothing. Like ammunition is logistics. It's logistics, it just is. But there can be cases made for many of these to be in other things. And some of it is just, well, what do you think? Well, I think it's this. Talk to the data steward, talk to the data custodians. What system is it in? And how does Dipper-Don classify that system? Is it a logistics system? Is it a enterprise management system? Sometimes that feeds into how we classify things in our domains.
Has there ever been, other than a data call, has there ever been conflicting governance on how you would handle a data set depending on which DON domain it falls in, or is that not?
That hasn't come up, I don't think. Yeah, I think that's, yeah,
That's where the curated data sets came from.
right, yeah. Next.
Hi. I had a couple questions here.
Okay.
I think it was on the previous slide. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so differing definitions of the same data element.
Mhm.
Did you find the inverse of that ever? The same definitions for
Oh, yeah.
different data? Okay.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
What was the resolution that you decided to come
It
to with that?
depends. Sometimes, like date. Well, date is date. Sometimes it's just date. Is it today? Is it the date of the requisition? Is it the date that it was delivered? Sometimes you need to clarify that definition-wise, but there are some things where, yeah, it's the same thing, but it's used for a different process, and it's in a different table. So you can say, hey, it's table blah, 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 this definition for this element. And I think sometimes it just needs to stay that way.
Part of it, to answer your question, is what we need the data catalog for.
Mhm.
Because there are different terms and different systems, but it's all actually the same foundational data element. So we've tagged where, and we know the link between different names of things where they're all the same source. So once we have a data catalog, we can load all of that in. So we have mapped
Yeah.
all of that, and we have understanding of that now. We just don't have a way to show it easily where you can click on something and see, but we have like documented and mapped that as we found those instances.
So are you
Yeah.
saying...
So if there's, I don't want to say duplicate data, because sometimes things are duplicated in tables for good reason. Sometimes that's just, it has to be that way for whatever, the business has to run that way. But foundationally, that's coming from ERP, or it's coming from somewhere else. And so they're going to have the same name. And so that's the case that Carrie's saying. You know, we understand that those two data elements and those two tables, for those two different business processes, have the same name because they're coming from this ERP table.
And I assume there's some sort of traceability.
Yeah, that's what
Okay.
that's what we want to. I mean, obviously, right now we're working with Excel spreadsheets and Word documents and other kinds of documentation to track all of that. Once we get a data catalog, that's the kind of thing where we can do that data discovery and say, hey, we've actually got more than we think we do. But we can't do that yet. You know, we're basically manually scanning the stuff and looking for those things, you know, in anticipation of having a catalog that will help us do that.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. My other question is, you talked about dynamic data versus stale data. Was there any effort to use APIs to get live data?
You're talking data. Don't talk data to me. Sorry, I have a vague idea of what an API is. I'm not an IT person. So at this point, we do? Okay. See, she would know.
We're working on a lot of that, and
Yeah, could you, hand her the mic, please. Yeah.
And I'm also not the technical expert. My counterpart is, so forgive any
She's better than me.
you know, flaws in my answer. But we're working on an API catalog to better understand like all of those connections throughout NavSup, better understand the architecture throughout NavSup, and where can we automate things, where can we get things in real time, what things need to be in real time, and what things don't for demand on, you know, the systems and things like that. So that are things that I'm not the expert of, but we're working with the experts of those things, and NavSup has efforts. And that's one of the nice things about the Data Leadership Council and the roadmap that we've built is everyone now understands what everyone else is working on, and we can collaborate and reach across the table to say, hey, you understand these answers and this nuance, and here's how it's affecting me. What can we do to resolve this? And so there's a lot of efforts going on at NAVSUP that I can't speak on personally from my expertise, but because now we have a better understanding of the big picture, I know exactly who to point you to. I know exactly who has that answer, or who, most likely will be able to get you to the right place that has that answer. So that's a lot of what we've built with the Data Leadership Council is, hey, let's stop duplicating our efforts, or let's just have a better understanding of what the other departments are working on so that we know, and if we do have a question or concern, we know who to talk to, we know what to do.
Ghostbusters is not who we're going to call. So, yeah, thank you, Carrie. Oh, Randall's got a question. Randall's going to put me on the spot.
Long-time listener, first-time caller. There's so much to love about the way that you presented some comments here before the question, but from my perspective, just what stands out to me is there's not a lot of technical speak, a lot of technical jargon. I think you're hitting some of the very fundamental things that make the technical pieces successful once they're brought online. And without the knowledge, background information, it's really sort of hard to define your data sets. It's hard to know what you need it for. All that work is just, it's not the sexy work, but it is fundamental to success. So from my perspective, super duper. And I guess my question follows on from that. How is it being received up the chain in terms of resourcing and continuation of the work as you begin to hopefully spread the joy across NAVSUP?
Well, I have contractors helping me. Thank you. Thank you to my fellow people. Otherwise, I'd be doing it all by myself because I myself am data governance at NAVSUP, which is not fun. My boss helps a lot. Thanks, Brian. I hope you're on. I kind of did the research. I created, before I had my contractors, I created the framework for those data domains to try and map up, to do it from a business perspective, to start communicating that, hey, a table that has one central, a database that has one central table and all the other tables feed off of that, it's probably a bad idea from a data governance perspective. We need to fix that. And just talking, I invite everyone at NAVSUP can come to the data governance meetings we have every quarter. And if you want to join, just let me know. Send me a Teams meeting thing and I will invite you. Because we just want to talk about data governance. We want to talk about how are we getting to that end self-service data discovery thing. And like I said before, I can talk forever. So I have no problem going into someone's office and talking until they tell me to leave. And sometimes that's what it takes. If you're going to talk, please use the... Oh, yeah, it is. We had a meeting with Captain James recently, and he was very excited. He's WSS? Here's my major malfunction with numbers. I started when the Army, if you're with the business division, you're with the business division, and I know what you do. When I came to the Navy, that's like, oh, one, blah, blah, I have no idea. And I'm sorry, but I'm not going to learn it. I'm just not. Just tell me what you do. Don't tell me you work for 01697. I don't know what that is. And I'm stubborn, and I'm not going to learn it. So, but Captain James was very excited about what we're doing. And as we spread out, we're actually losing some members of the data governance working group because they understand what we're doing, and they don't necessarily come to the meetings anymore. They read the slides that we post. Sometimes they'll comment on the slides, but they're all on board. So that hour that I'm going to spend trying to convince, you or you that, hey, data governance, here's what we're doing now, here's what we're doing now. They can read the slides and they can, 5 minutes, they understand where we're at, what our updates are, and they're all on board. And that's a good thing. You know, sometimes I'm like, oh, there's only 39 people here. But then afterwards, I'll get messages. Oh, well, you talked about this, or you talked about that. Oh, I didn't even see you on the list. But they had read through the slides, and they wanted to give me feedback. Excellent. I'm all there. So it's working, and it's becoming more, you know, it's odd for me to come across someone who has never heard data governance, because I'm out there. So I walk around, I talk about data governance. I want to talk to you about data governance. Talk to me. Talk to me about your data sets. Talk to me about that cool program you created that compiles data to create some fabulous analytics thing or a great dashboard. Show me your dashboard. I want to see it. Dashboards aren't sexy either, but I like a good dashboard. Doesn't everybody like a good dashboard? It tells you wonderful things. Is it Tom? Oh, you like a good back there. He likes a good dashboard. So, yeah, I mean, oh, you think they're sexy too? Oh, all right. Okay. I don't know that I've seen a sexy dashboard. I'll have to see your dashboard. But, ooh, no. Sorry about that. You know, it's all a talk. Talk. People don't like to talk to other people. I mean, my neighbors. I met my neighbors in the most awkward way. They have chickens. I ran out of eggs. You wouldn't happen to have any eggs, would you? I know I'm borrowing things that I'm never going to be able to give back to you because they're brand new, fresh eggs from your wonderful chickens. But I'm baking cookies and I need some eggs. So, you know, maybe it wasn't the best way to meet her, but hey, it's great. And, you know, how well do you know the person in the cube next to you? Do you even know what they do? Is it data governance related? Maybe it is. Talk to me. I want to know what you do. I don't really want to see you, but I want to talk to you. Teams me. No, it's all good. It's all good. All right, any other questions? Come on, guys, talk to me. Just don't hand me a PDF of your data catalog. That would be bad. All right, we're done? All right, fabulous. How much time am I? Oh, I'm almost on time. Scary stuff. All right, thanks, guys.